Alright, so we are back with the vise reassembly video, and we're going to start out with the most fun part, which is getting the body back together and the wiring back in. So first step is going to be reattaching the wiring. So I'll get these kind of close together, line it up, and then just push it down with fingernail on either side on the plastic housing, not the wiring. And then you can go back, this is where the tweezers come in handy, and just push down the corners to make sure it's actually seated all the way in there. Bada bing, bada boom. All right, this is the best part, getting this guy back in here. What I recommend doing is, I can't remember which Allen key it is. It's not this one, it's this one, right? Yeah. So I'm gonna actually stick this screw in here, and I'm going to put my Allen key in here and get a hold of that. So now all I have to do is leave that there to keep the screw from falling out. When I reattach this, it should slide together much easier, and you just slowly rotate, again making sure you're not pinching any wires. I used to try and keep the screw in here without the Allen key, and I would spend literally 30 minutes trying to align the solenoid back in here while sliding the two pieces together, and that was moronic and caused me lots of frustration. But once I realized that little trick, it just boosted my confidence in taking these apart and reassembling them. And as you get close here, again, you're going to want to check. I don't have any, but sometimes the wire will pop out and you don't want to pinch the frame and the body on that. So just keep an eye out for that. Usually doesn't happen on the back side, but good to check there as well. Getting close here. You don't want to force anything when you're bringing these back together. That's how stuff breaks. Just patience and observation. So you don't want to over tighten it. Just make sure there's a little pressure there. That's all good. We'll go ahead and put the battery and the grip back on. So again, if you have boards facing up, at least on the Ryujin, Ryujin, we're going to go ahead and put the positive on the left. Let's put my hand under here, so otherwise you'll just push it straight through. Thing. Go ahead and take your Virtue grips or whatever you have. Shout out to DM Grundy. He makes awesome 3D printed grips. I pretty much the only person I've ever bought grips from, and I've been just stoked with all of them. Don't have them on this one, unfortunately. I do like the rubber grips, so I wouldn't necessarily get rid of rubber grips, but sometimes these holes wear out and they're just no good. And instead of buying one off eBay for $50, you hit him up, and he's pretty affordable, cheaper than the rubber for sure, and he can customize them. So again, if you're looking for grips, check him out. I'm sure he's pretty active in here. I think I was using an Allen key too big. Yep, that was my problem. So again, this is your smallest Allen key. Oh no. And again, with these rubber grips, you don't want to over tighten them. That's how the rubber gets all messed up. So especially with the first side, I would just put them in just a little bit past catching. So as soon as you feel a little bit of tension, I would just stop, flip it over. Hear that rattling? That's the LPR screw, don't worry about that. Always gives me a little bit of a heart attack when I hear it, but it's gonna be okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and try and line these up. You may have to stretch. This one's way off. The rubber grips, you kind of have to like stretch them into position. Fellas know what I'm talking about, right? And then just go ahead and stick it on in there. don't. Oh, a little bit was just screwing into the rubber. Thought I was doing it again with the wrong Allen key, but just patience. And again, feel tension, stop there. Maybe a little encouragement. Go ahead and kind of push the rubber grip into position. And there we go, it's catching. Whoa. These gloves are great for keeping stuff clean, but not the best for dexterity. There we go. We hung in there, and we got it done. Check it, feels pretty secure. Getting sick of that rattling, so let's go ahead and take care of the LPR next. While you're here, you're gonna wanna go ahead and give it a little rub. Again, this is one of the things, you're not having issues, I wouldn't recommend taking apart, but to do so, there's actually, the small silver hex key inside, but then if you notice, this black edge here is for a larger Allen key. I think it's even bigger than that. So I lied, there is another Allen key you need. Yeah, so it's the 732s. Should have covered this in the disassemble. No, it's even bigger. Whoa. Jesus. The quarter. So you get the quarter, you unscrew it, take it apart, similar to the HPR. Again, if this is not causing you issues, it's one of those things I don't recommend taking apart, because then you may have issues. So again, just use the big hex key, unscrew it. While we're here, we'll go ahead and put a little bit of lube on the O-rings. Just a little bit. I'm just taking a little bit off of the escalab. Sometimes if you're having leaks, all you need is a little bit of lube. So it's good to just go through every now and again and make sure it's all lubed up. Side note, I may be selling this vise soon. Not sure yet. I've been vulturing, collecting quite a few, and I know some of you have been trying to get your hands on them. I don't blame you. They're terrific markers. So right now I'm currently in the theking stage, but once the other vices get here, I will probably post this one up. I also got a G6R coming in the mail as well, so we'll see. Who knows, maybe it'll be the G6R Vulture here in a little bit, but those aren't quite as affordable. So I'm just get all that extra off, microfiber. And so this hole here, you want to make sure that's facing down. It's easier to do it just going in instead of looking in there with a light. We'll stick in there. This is fun. You kind of got to jiggle it to where you can see the head of the screw. Line up your key, and you'll feel it catch here in a sec. There it goes. Again, don't over tighten this because it's just metal on metal, and you'll scratch your LPR. Just make sure it doesn't have any movement in it. You're good to go. Little dog hair on there. That's nice. Oh, I just goofed up. We forgot about our poppet. Sick. So let's take a step back here. Let's get this guy back in here. See, we all make mistakes. That definitely would have made an issue with the gun. Cool. Wow. So again, pop it. That's important. We serviced this in the last video. Just give it a little rub with the microfiber, little oil. Sorry, not oil. Little grease. You go ahead and put the spring, skinny side of the spring on the plastic poppet and feed it into the bottom hole. Now, and only now, will you take your LPR with the hole down and stick that in there as well. Oops. So before you do that, you're going to want to make sure your poppet actually gets into its housing. There it goes. So you want to make sure it's pushed back farther than I had it. If the spring's Flush, it's not ready. You want to make sure it's pushed back. Now you take your LPR, third time's a charm. It should just slide right in there, just like that. And if you lose the hole, this guy is the same. So now you will take your Allen key and line it up perfect. It's catching, spin, spin, spin. And just a little bit past tension. Again, shouldn't have any movement in there. Good to go. Next, we'll go ahead and drop our rammer in. I just serviced this off camera, but again, you're just going to want to wipe it down with a microfiber. Here, shits and giggles. You're going to wipe it down with a microfiber. You're going to take some Dow 55, usually way more than you need. You're going to give it a little bada bing. A little bada boom. There's a hair on there. Cool. Wipe off that excess oil. Go ahead and drop your rammer in. Grab your rammer cap. Good idea to keep your stuff organized as you're working so you don't mix up your Allen keys like me. And then for the bolt, have your Planet Eclipse gun oil. Just a little bit. On this one I have the old school Bob Long bolt with the, I forget what that's called. I think that's the pillow. And it's in great condition. Some scratches and wear here, but you'll see once the oil's on there, it's almost difficult to see any blemishes. So again, just a drop. Spread that around there. Maybe one more baby drop right there. Now, putting this guy back on, you're going to want to look for that groove in there. You're going to line that up with your bolt pin, so slide it in. And then push down, you'll hear an initial click, just wiggle it back and forth, and you'll get a secondary click. And to make sure it's in there, you can roll it back and forth, and your bolt shouldn't slide out. It's good to get some lube in the breech. Now this one is pretty smooth. Go ahead and stick the HPR back on. Boom. And so, oh, this is what I was, whoops. So that is where you can see where if you don't loosen it all the way, you'll scratch. If you just start spinning it, if you don't loosen it enough, you'll scratch. And then if you loosen it, again, not enough, you'll clip these O-rings. So be real careful with that. I don't know if I serviced this in the last video, but basically, again, just wipe it off. Give it a little bit of Dow 55, you're good to go. Very rarely do you have to do anything to those, but if you're there, it's available, why not, right? Just make sure that's sitting down. Tighten these screws back in. You're going to want to make sure these are in tight. You do not want this thing spinning around on you on the field. That would not be good. Same thing on the other side. I guess while I'm here, just in case I want to do more detail, this gun's in really good condition, but as you can see above this screw, we do have two little blemishes, I guess you could say. Other than that, though, there's some, like, I guess, paint fade, and there's a little bit of silver right here. Just seeing a dog here, but for the most part, the gun's in great shape. No major scratches or anything like that. If you stare at it long enough, I guess you could find tiny, tiny little bits of silver showing, but that primarily is the only big one. God, I love these guns. And you've made it almost all the way to the end. The last thing you're going to do is reattach. First I'm going to cap these up so they don't spill out. So you're going to reattach your macro line. I recommend doing this guy first. I just seem to have more issues where it'll just barely leak out of here, and typically that's because the macro line is not as long as it should be. I always say cut more than you need, and then you can just slowly cut it off. If you cut one like this, that's just barely the length you need, you're going to have a lot more issues with just like a little bit of leaking. Sometimes you can fire it and it'll go away, but that's again why you want to cut these notches, so it'll help keep that seal. So I stick this one in, and you don't have to do anything with the silver rings on this. They work themselves. Bend it back, shove it in there, and then I actually grab the silver and pull that back. And again, the silver, pull it back. And then when you air it up too, and you should be all good. Definitely gonna do a shooting video soon with this guy, as well as probably the rest of my collection, because why the hell not? And that is it. If you have any questions, if I said anything wrong, please add it in the comments. I don't want to lead anyone astray. Other than that, again, best marker ever made. I'll say it. I know there are G6Rs thrown around a lot, but I don't know any G6Rs you can pick up for 300 to 400. Maybe they exist, I don't know. But that's it. Bye now.